get ready to get sticky.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Sticky Situations. I'm your host Rachel, as you hopefully remember by now, because I'm simply unforgettable. Also, we're a bunch of episodes in, and I would assume if you're real loyal Sticky Situation Nation members, you know me. Anyways, everybody, remember to follow or subscribe, whatever the platform you listen on allows for. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. If we are not on a platform that you listen on, then send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email. I'll give you that information in a second, and I'll do my best work. Speaking of which, like the Sticky Situations page on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram at Sticky Situations Pod. Follow us on TikTok at Sticky Situations Pod. I think I'm hilarious on TikTok, and that's where I do my best work. So follow. And also, you can send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. Also, a reminder, if you would like to be a guest on my podcast, send me a DM on Instagram at stickysituationspod or send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. If you would like to date me or any of my single guests, send me an email or a DM and I'll send you the application. I have those applications made and ready to go. But only available upon request. I think my application is still out there somewhere. You could probably find it on the TikTok. I've posted it a few places. I think it's hilarious. I've gotten some hilarious responses. But you can send me a DM and I'll send it to you. Okay, now let's get right into it. Today, I am joined by my friend and my neighbor, Reina. Reina, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for coming.
I'm very, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Reina always entertains with her best stories, so I was like, who better to have on this podcast? Okay, so Reina, let's get some basics out of the way. Can you tell my listeners your age, your location, and your relationship status?
Yeah, I am 28. I live in New York City, and I am currently in a relationship, and it's new, so I'm allowed to be giddy and excited, and yeah.
We can be excited for her. Gentlemen, please do not ask about dating Reina because she is taken.
For now. Actually, no. For now. Dan, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We won't tell him.
Anywho.
Hopefully she will stay happily taken and have no more stories to share after this episode. But Reina informed me that she has a long list of stories that she jotted down, so I think we should just get right into it. Reina,
amazing.
You want to give me your best?
Yeah.
I know you said you have some categories of stories, so
yeah.
We can start wherever you want to start.
Well, let's go back. So for some context, I was a pretty late bloomer, and I know that means different in different circles or communities. So essentially, for the longest time in middle school and even high school, for the most part, I was the funny friend, involved in the drama, but not really pursued by the men, and yeah, it wasn't really until, I guess, later in college, and then in the real world that I feel like I actually started, pursuing people, having the confidence to do that. And so when I think about the early days, one youth tale comes to mind. I went to Jewish summer camp, as many people do, and I would put this under the category of embarrassing story. So brace yourself, middle school cringe. I was at camp second to last summer, so I was maybe 14 or 15, and my counselors told us that we were going to do a speed dating bunk activity with the boys' bunk, one of the boys' bunks. At the time, there were two boys' bunks. One of them was more stereotypically cool, so more obnoxious, loud, didn't listen to people. And then the other boys' bunk were honestly the sweet boys. I was better friends with them. Maybe you could say they're a little bit nerdier. I thought they were generally more stand-up guys, but anywho, we were doing the speed dating activity with the boys' bunk. That was the more nerdy, quiet, and I was so pumped My personality had just gotten, out there that summer. I was so excited to just like do the speed dating thing. It wasn't about actually being interested in any of these guys, but I was ready to just like really lean into the activity. So I got dressed up in this like cute like black tank top and like black skirt, and I was really feeling myself. I was like chewing gum kind of obnoxiously, the whole 9 yards. And so we started the speed dating activity, and it's probably honestly the same as an adult speed dating activity, and I've never actually done one, so I'm just, whenever people say they do speed dating, this is exactly what I imagine.
I've never done it in person. I've only done it virtual.
You've done virtual? Like over Zoom?
Yeah.
That sounds... I'd just be like, sorry, my audio's not working, bye.
Oh, I've had guys who just like come on, appear for like a second, and then run away.
Love that.
I think really it only happened one guy I already went out with, and we mutually ghosted each other. That was a weird story. I won't get into it right now, but I will tell it in the future. I saw his face, and then he turns off his camera. He's like, I think my camera's not working. And then he just like leaves for the rest of the 7 minutes we were supposed to be talking. And I'm like, okay, we went on like 2 dates like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not that awkward. You could just pretend like you don't remember me.
That's, good cringe warm up here. So if you've been to a real life speed dating activity, you can imagine exactly how we looked. A bunch of high schoolers around in a circle. Every 2 minutes you switch. And the counselors had made this really cute. They'd put little blueberries out and cups of like sliced cheese, and it was really, really cute. And my confidence, I was like really feeling myself, as I said. And as my confidence is growing with conversation after conversation, I notice that each guy progressively gets more and more awkward and like not looking at me, like making eye contact. And I was just getting a little bit confused, and I'm like, ooh, this is not going how I thought it was going to go. These people are my friends. What's happening? So I'm kind of dragging my feet back to the bunk, and I'm thinking, what could have happened? Like, I was really feeling myself. I was making good conversation, asking questions, like doing this thing I see people do in movies where they like flirtily like pull their gum out a little bit. It's really gross. Don't ever do it. But like doing that little thing with the gum, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I start going back to my bunk, and my friend who's at the bunk, just, I'm not even joking, from like 50 feet away, looks at me. And like, she wore glasses. There's no way she could actually really see my face. So the fact that she pointed this out was so terrible. She goes, Reina, what the F is on your face? And I'm like, what? And I run into the bunk. I look in the mirror, and I'm not even joking. There was like an inch of like radius around my mouth of just blue. It was just stained blue, like as if I had put lip liner like a whole inch up around my entire mouth. And I was like, what could have happened? And then I remembered that as part of my little flirty routine, I was pulling the gum out. I was also then proceeding to like sponge paint my face with the gum. And when you're eating blueberries, that stains. And so these boys were watching me just paint my face blue date after date. And don't ask me why I was like doing that. There is no good reason, but it was so embarrassing. And I think I talked to one of the guys after. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Like, that's so embarrassing. And he's like, I don't know, you like were wearing dark colors. I thought it was supposed to like go together. I was like, no. So anyway, moral of the story, men, if someone has like spinach in their teeth or blueberry gum stains an inch radius around their mouth, please tell them. Just tell them.
Oh my God.
Just tell them, and everyone will be better for it. So that was me growing up. And yeah, that's probably my most embarrassing moment. I have one other embarrassing story I can dive into.
Okay, but first, I just want to know, the counselors made you do speed dating? It was honestly, like, looking back, like, being a camp counselor, I feel like I would do the same torture, especially when they're like that awkward, like, beginning of high school age.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, so I think they knew what they were doing when they paired us with the bunk of more sweetheart boys with less drive. That makes sense. Just in terms of like making sure everyone felt really comfortable, I think, honestly, and it was for the best that it was that bunk. But in hindsight, it really was for the best that it was that bunk, because my face was so blue.
Oh yeah,
So
you
blue.
never would have lived it down if it was like the crazy like macho boys.
Yeah. It was so, I would have been like Blueface.
Oh my gosh.
Anywho, so yeah, I'd say this is another embarrassing story, and then we'll pivot away from me talking about my most cringe moments. And this story is going to be super abbreviated just because it could take the entire episode. But long story short, Facebook, dangerous tool, a blessing and a curse. I was at a summer program. It wasn't camp. It was another summer program I did for about a month or so, maybe 2 months. And there was this boy that I really had a crush on. And as I said, was a little awkward growing up and was just learning how to express feelings and all of that. And unfortunately, I had hung out with another boy one night, and I was worried that people were going to think that I was together with this one boy when I had a crush on this other boy. And so I was sort of freaking out a little bit because people saw us hanging together, and I don't know, these programs are small, they talk, whatever. So I was back at my room, and this is the summer between junior and senior year. So like I'm a young adult. I'm an adult, but anyway, I'm ferociously typing to my best friend at the time saying, oh my gosh, I was like hanging out in his room and all these guys saw me and they're gonna think that we're together, but I am, again, effing in love with insert name here. So I'm typing that. And then I noticed that the chat window is like opening and closing, and I'm like really just freaking out about the situation. I'm like, that's so weird that Facebook's opening and closing. And then I remember that earlier that day on another guy friend's computer, I had logged into my Facebook because I needed to like send myself something or whatever it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, is he on my Facebook right now? Is he reading? And he was close friends with this guy that I had a crush on. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I think I texted him and he's like, no, I'm not on your computer, don't worry. I'm like, okay, phew. Anyway, long story short, I learned the next day that not only was he on his computer and on my Facebook, but on one side of him was one of his close friends, and on the other side of him was the guy I was talking about. So he's literally reading the messages of me being like, I'm in love with this boy, what do I do? And it was so mortifying. And what's so funny is like we never spoke about it. We're still friendly, but we never spoke about it. And I will never not log out of my Facebook again, because it was just so mortifying, just knowing that they sat there on the couch in silence watching me confess my love.
So he never like asked you out, took the hint?
So yeah, so we did, and so okay, I know that my takeaway was don't log into someone's Facebook and not log out, but at the same time, then he very much knew my feelings, and it was a pretty risk-free investment on his end. So yeah, we ended up being a little thing for the rest of the summer.
Okay, so it worked out.
It was delightful. So I guess new takeaway, log into your Facebook or your preferred social media on every computer available. You never know where your crush is going to be. And just send messages professing your love for them.
Unless like they really don't like you. Then it's just embarrassing, and then everyone's just going to know that you're in love with this person who doesn't like you back.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go back to takeaway one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been there, done that, where I've had feelings for someone where everyone knew and he didn't reciprocate, and it was just awkward. It destroyed our whole friend group, and like, yeah.
Hate to see that.
It's fine.
Hate to see that. Keeping it light, though. Keeping it light,
Yeah, keeping it light. No, I've told this story before. He's fine. We're on good terms now. I don't know why I even had feelings for him. Like, looking back, I'm like, he's not that great. But, yeah.
Random man, if you're listening, you're good. You're good. She's just trying to cover her bases. She thinks you're great. She's still in love with you. No, I'm talking.
No.
I literally have no clue who this is.
I've had, like, real relationships since, and I'm like, wow, okay, so that's what reciprocated feelings.
Yeah.
Not that I hadn't dated anyone before him, but, like,
Speaking of unreciprocated feelings, I once was so in love with my podiatrist.
Oh my God.
So here's the thing. I never admitted it, even though somehow I guess I mentioned that he was cute and somewhat Jew looking, and maybe stalked his entire family. I don't even remember, which is good for anonymity and bad for my story recollection. But I don't know. He just like He was a very adorable podiatrist. And, you know, when people really make you feel comfortable about your most insecure parts of you, whether that's a personality trait, whether that's like something about like your job or your not job or whatever it is, like you really appreciate when people make you feel comfortable. And so I have, don't stop listening, I have genetic bunions. What that means is I did not get bunions from, and bunions are the part of your foot, the ball of your foot, the bone.
Reina's pointing it out right now, even though you guys can't see.
Yeah, so when people say in yoga, put your big toes together, I can't do that without creating a terrible angle. So I'm very self-conscious about my feet, and I didn't even get dance lessons or any sort of dance rhythm out of it because a lot of ballerinas get bunions from dancing. I didn't even have to dance. I was quite literally born with bunions. So anyway, very self-conscious. So when a man with an adorable face comes around and makes me feel comfortable about my feet and wraps it in plaster of Paris to make me the orthotics that will make me more comfortable, I was really into it. And then there was like some billing issues, so I never went back, but I think I mentioned it to my mom like one time, and she was like, how about your podiatrist? And I was like, I need to tell you about my dating life more if you think my best bet right now is my podiatrist, who's like 10 years older than me. But thanks, Mom. I understand the foot thing, yeah.
Honestly, like, I feel like Jewish podiatrist, if he's single and cute.
Yeah, I like deep stalked his family. But like also, you don't even know who it is. Like, I had no information other than like his name and his practice. But anywho,
yeah, that's true. You know nothing about him.
Hope he's well and that he is still making feet feel comfortable all over New York City. Anywho,
I had a female podiatrist.
Yeah.
I should have just gone. I should ask you for your podiatrist.
Yeah, you're missing out. You gotta go.
Listen, if I have any other foot problems, I'm gonna call you.
Yeah, I'll find him. He's probably blocked me, but no, I'm joking. I never professed my love, but I did linger in the office a few times. Anyway, any other good stories that I have? Would you like to hear what I consider my worst dating story?
Yes, please tell us.
All right, and I have to say that this is not, I've been very blessed, and I heard someone else on the podcast say this too, like I've been very, very lucky where I have gone through heartbreak. I've had very mediocre dates where there's just not really a connection, but I have not had what I would consider a bad date where someone ends up spilling something on me, or I go home crying, or for some reason they get mad at me, or I get ditched somewhere. I've been very, very lucky. And so the fact that this is my worst dating story, or my worst date story is true. And I'm sure I had other dates where it just, there also wasn't a connection, but this one just, I tell on repeat because it is the strangest thing that's hands down ever happened. So I feel like Hinge and all those apps, I don't know if we're allowed to like name brands here. Yeah. Hinge, Tinder, J-Swipe, Coffee Meets Bagel, sponsor us.
If you would like to sponsor Shaky Situations, please send me an email at shakysituationspod@gmail.com. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Whew. Paying you the big bucks. So I sometimes would consider those like blind dates, sort of, right? Something kind of set us up. We both approved of each other, and then maybe you talked a little bit, maybe you didn't, and then you go out on a date. This was my only real ever blind date. A friend messaged me, said, hey, I know someone who's like looking for nice Jewish girl. I'm like, that's wild, that's me. He's like, yep, that's why I'm reaching out. And he set us up, and we really didn't talk in advance. And so I was 22 at the time. I just moved to the city, single, and really immediately I realized that me and this individual did not have any sort of romantic connection. And I hate saying romantic connection because it's not like you like expect to get all mushy and stuff. It's just like, do I want to sit here listening to this person talk, or would I rather be in bed? And I feel like that's the attraction I'm looking for in a first date. So I was not getting that. And I also was a little under the weather at the time, which I feel like now, like in COVID stuff, it's like, oh my God, you left your apartment, you were feeling sick. Yeah, we were allowed to do that back then. It was totally socially acceptable. So I was a little under the weather, and we met up, and it was just very clear that there was no romantic connection or any sort of interest on my end. Really, really nice guy. I actually, friends with him on Facebook. I have friends who reach out saying, hey, I see you're friends with so-and-so. I matched with him. Like, any thoughts? I'm like, wasn't for me, but really great guy. Anywho, I've now flattered him enough. I can say the embarrassing part. So, so we're on this date. We're at this bar, and as I said, I wasn't feeling well. So I was thinking, we're gonna grab this drink or two, and I'll head home. And he was a little bit older, and just vibes weren't there. And being older is like not a problem. It's just that I was 22, and dating someone like 27 or 28 at the time, the age difference was very palpable, right? So after we leave the bar, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to head home. I'm just going to like skirt off. And he's like, do you want to go to Magnolia's and get, some, cupcakes or banana pudding? And I was like, okay, I can't say no. And yes, the banana pudding's to die for. If you haven't had it, you really should. Cupcakes are great too. But I was obsessed with Lonely Island growing up, and they have that song that's like, lazy Sunday, wake up in the late afternoon, call Parnell just to see how he's doing. Yo, what's up, Parn? I think, yo, Sandberg, what's cracking? You thinking what I'm thinking? Narnia, man, it's happening. And then they go to, and it's like, first, like my hunger pains are sticking like duct tape. Let's hit up Magnolia and mac on some cupcakes. So to me, Magnolia's was like the Louvre. Like, I needed to go to Magnolia's. I was fresh in the city, and he just name dropped like the only celebrity place I knew in my mind. So I was like, I am on my deathbed right now. I will go to Magnolia's. So we go to Magnolia's, and he's like, do you want banana pudding? Do you want cupcakes? I'm like, truly, I do not even want to eat anything. I am just thrilled to be here. Maybe Andy Samberg's here. I did not say any of that out loud. I was thinking all of it. And so we get a small banana pudding and a cupcake to split, and he had said, like, do you want the large banana pudding, small banana pudding? I was like, oh, small's totally fine. Like, I'm really not that hungry, just excited to like try a little bit. So yes, admittedly, the banana pudding was quite literally the best thing my taste buds had ever eaten in its entire life, and the cupcake was great too, just second tier to banana pudding. But I only ate a couple bites. I'm just thrilled that we went, and all of a sudden we're like sitting on this bench eating. And he's like kind of like muttering to himself, to me, like, oh, we should have gotten like the large banana pudding. And I'm like, what? He's like, oh, we should have gotten the large banana pudding. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm actually kind of done. There's like still like half of it left. You good? He's like, oh, we should have gotten the large. Like, he just won't stop talking about the large. And I am such a big eater, so I'm never going to judge someone for eating a lot or whatever it is. But I was like, shell-shocked. I don't know how to respond to this. This man needs more banana pudding. And so I'm like trying to calm him down in my mind. He's probably just said it, normally, but I'm like, oh God, he's going to explode. Banana pudding alert, banana pudding everywhere. So I'm like, should we put the top on it? Like, what do I run? No, I'm totally kidding. So anyway, he's like just talking about like wishing he got the large banana pudding. And finally I'm like, okay, you got me. How big's the large banana pudding? And I'm not even joking. He was like, 4 times the size of the small. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, we haven't even made it through the small. I'm like, was he gonna sit here just eat banana pudding for like 4 hours? Like, what the heck? And so yes, he wasn't like crying, but there was a little, like a hint of a hissy fit, a little hissy fit situation. And as I said, he was a delightful human being. And the banana pudding, honestly, if I was really into him, that probably would have been what sealed the deal, that he wanted a large banana pudding. But I was already not super interested. So now he's banana pudding boy. And I know we're a fan of code names, fake names for men on this pod. So just had to
or
put that out
women,
there.
or women.
Women too. Although, yeah, I guess men are my sex of choice. But I firmly believe that you don't get a name till you deserve a name. You really don't. You have a code name to friends. Your number's not in the phone.
Oh yeah, I never save anyone's numbers.
Yeah, my current boyfriend, I met him at a bar in Austin, Texas. Just cute little meet cute. I was on a bachelorette party. He was on a bachelor party, and first time wing womaning ever worked. My friends really just talked to him. I didn't really talk to him much, but he put his number in my phone, and I put him in as his name, Austin Bar. And he actually stayed as his name Austin Barr for actually until after we defined the relationship. And then I was like, I need to give him a name. We're in too deep to not give him a name. And I also just didn't like that his initials were Dab, as cool as it is. So
She just dabbed.
can't not say Dab without
For those of you
dabbing.
who can't see but can only hear.
Yeah. One time I said his initials out loud and we both went Dab. And I was like, yeah,
That's love right
that.
there. That's it's meant to be.
yeah. So anyway, banana pudding, it's good, but maybe just don't.
Wait,
do that.
I need like size amounts. Like, how big is a large banana pudding? Like, can 2 people even eat a large?
Yeah, I would say a large is probably like a little bit smaller than a solo cup. Maybe no.
Oh.
No. I lied. Large is maybe diameter of the top of a solo cup, but down. So like a full
Okay.
pint. Like think a pint of ice cream.
Oh, so that's like a pint of banana pudding.
Pint of banana pudding.
Also, like, if he wanted more banana pudding, couldn't he have just gone back and gotten more banana pudding?
Yeah. And what's crazy is like sometimes I exaggerate in stories. And no, he did not cry. He did not explode. Maybe later when he got home, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm not joking. Like, I started telling the story because I was truly shocked that I didn't even have to exaggerate at how many times he mentioned the banana pudding. And I was like, I haven't been eating this banana pudding for like 5 minutes at this point. Take it to the face. So
Wait, so how did this date end?
I think we parted ways. He ran back to Magnolia's, got more. No, I think they were closing when we left. But yeah, I mean, admittedly, he did reach out to go out again, and just where I was emotionally and youth-wise at the time, I politely declined. But it's lovely. I believe he's still single. If you're interested in Banana Pudding Boy, let me know.
It's funny that you joked that he went back to Magnolia's because I'll tell you guys this quick tidbit. It's not even my story. It's a guy who I dated who was kind of like a real ex, so I probably will not have him on this podcast, so I can share the story. So he told me once that he went on this date where he took a girl out for dinner. This was like way before we dated. And he took a girl out for dinner. He's like, yeah, I looked up the restaurant. I knew exactly what I wanted to get. And he's like, I was really excited because apparently when boys take you out for dinner, they like really just want the food. And like that's their main motivation for taking you out to dinner. I've heard this from multiple guys. Like they're like, yeah, it's dinner time. I just want to eat. And like, unless it's like deep into the relationship, they're probably more excited about the food than the girl. So yeah, so he was saying, he was like, I was really excited about the food. I knew exactly what I wanted to order. And he's like, then the girl comes and she only orders soup. And he's like, okay, now I feel weird getting like real food when all she wants is soup. Turns out this girl was like my former roommate, and like we connected those dots later. But anyway, so she just orders soup. So he's like, I felt like I just had to order soup. And then he's like, and I was so mad. The date was like, and then he's like, and then the whole date, she only proceeded to talk about soup. And he was like, the date was like terrible. And he was like, I was so excited for the food, but we only got soup, and I was still so hungry when I left. And he's like, she drove herself, so like I offered to walk her to her car. She didn't want to be walked to her car, so she left. And immediately he turns back around, walks back into the restaurant, and he was like, so I was just here, I have a reservation, I can give you my name again, can I just be seated again, please?
Table for one.
Yeah. And he's like, and then I ordered actual food and I ate, and it was great.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. And then I figured, because he had told me that he had gone on 2 dates with my former roommate, and I was like, oh wait, that's Soup Girl.
Soup Girl?
That's Soup Girl.
Oh my god.
Because like, I knew, because even when I went out to dinner with her, she only got soup. And I'm like, that's just her thing.
Okay,
and
yeah,
like,
that makes it a little bit better, but I also feel like I can see ordering soup as like, oh, you know, I don't want to like make him have a big bill or anything, but also if that's like a thing, maybe you just don't order soup on the first date if that's gonna,
or like, I gauge what they're getting. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like, what do you want? Like, do you want to split something? Like appetizers or something? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what stage you do that. If a guy
Yeah.
suggests that at any point, I probably would.
Yeah.
But like, it's just
Can't
funny.
split soup. That's like one of the only foods you can't split.
No, but he also got soup,
Unless
and he's
it's
like, the
split
soup was
pea.
like good, but like,
Thank you.
he's like, the soup was good, but like, it's not a meal. So then I joked with him that when we went out, like the next time we were planning a dinner date, which honestly we didn't even go on because I broke up with him, but he's a great guy. He's a great guy, and if he's listening, like, you're great. I always talk about how great you are, even though I really don't think he's listening.
But if you are.
But if you are. I joked with him. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to order soup, and I'm only going to talk about soup the whole date. I'm going to have my soup facts
talking about
ready
soup
to
is a bit
go.
much. One time I was out with a guy who I dated for, honestly, about 2 months. Again, not a great fit ultimately, and no hard feelings towards him, but he was definitely a little more just liked nicer things than me, and we went to a really, really nice restaurant for like our first. We had hung out a few times before that, but a really nice restaurant for our first date. And because I was a little conscious that he's like just better at being fancier and all of that, I'm more of like Chipotle bowl girl. I was sort of taking cues from him to like start eating. So like the food had arrived, and I'm like, I'm just gonna let him like carry the show to show me where to go. And what I didn't realize is that apparently in fancy culture, you wait for the woman to start eating. So we were having this like chicken stare down while we were talking, while both of us were like so hungry and just looking at each other being like, why isn't the other person starting to eat? And finally I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like be rude and start eating. And the second my finger like touched the fork, he like went for it too. Like he was like ready to go. I felt so bad. I was like, wow.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I did not either, but he was, it's sort of like let the lady walk through the door first.
I'm kind of like you though. I wait for him to like.
Honestly, it was just in this instant,
cue.
but it was so funny.
I'm never going to wait ever again.
Yeah, once I did that, I realized he had been waiting too, and it just made the whole thing funnier, where I was like, wow, I was so looking for him for the cue that I missed that I was the cue. So that was...
Honestly, I don't know. I don't even know how to dinner date. I haven't been on a dinner date in a long time. But, like, just thinking about that gives me anxiety.
I was on a date once with a person who kept, wanting, and I totally understand this, you don't want there to be awkward silence, but he kept trying to start talking about our day and how things are going before we ordered, and I cannot multitask, so I was really trying to read the menu. And it was at a Mexican place, and so, menu is quite large, there's a lot of different options. And I was just getting so frustrated that he kept trying to have a conversation with me when I was trying to read the menu. So finally I was like, I'm sorry, I can't multitask. I'm going to really focus on the menu, and then you'll have all of my attention. And he's like, okay. I got like 5 seconds of silence, and then he asked me another question. And this wasn't a first date, but that memory just came to me. Not even from the notes. This came from my brain in real time.
Yeah, I don't like that. I also need time to, like, look at the menu, unless I looked at it ahead of time, which, like, I wish I was that prepared. I'm normally not that prepared. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's always that, like, awkward, like, oh, you're talking, then the waiter comes, or like, oh, do you know what you want yet?
And
you're like, oh, wait, we have to look at the menu.
I like literally didn't even know this was a restaurant. Shoot.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, do you have food? Oh no, it's so dumb of me. Why did I say that? I'm gonna go to the bathroom and never come back. I hate that. It happens way too often.
And then, like, you just do, like, the whole dance of, like, looking at the menu and being like, oh. In my case, I feel like it's just, like, silent for a minute or two. And
which
then
is fine.
What are you gonna get?
Read.
Also, like, I never know what to get when I'm taken out for dinner because, again, like, price point, because I expect the guy to pay. At least the first few dates. And, like, if he's paying, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see what he's getting to try. Because you don't want to, like, get the cheapest thing on the menu, but you also, like somewhere in the middle. But
yeah, I would say you don't get your own appetizer unless you've decided together you're getting an appetizer.
Yeah, I only get an appetizer if we're, like... I feel like the only time I've ever gotten appetizers on dates was with my ex. I mean, this might be a lie.
Relationship?
Yeah. Like, my ex-boyfriend that I dated for 5.5 months. Mm-hmm. And he was an appetizer guy. He's like, okay. He's an appetizer guy.
I mean, in general, because you're onto the main course now, or?
No. Meaning, like, he...
We have a little studio audience here that we did not mention before, and our little studio audience member is currently crying.
I mean, it's a good point. I'm just waiting for my main course to come along. I had
dessert
an appetizer.
boy, if you're out there.
Dessert or main course?
Main course boy, and then dessert boy.
Dessert
and
boy,
then,
I feel like, is a later in life thing.
Wait, there's going to be, like, the little mint that you take when you leave boy. Like, you know, the little, you leave a restaurant, specifically the Olive Garden. It's the chocolate mint one. Anyway.
I feel like that's going to be, like, my later in life. Like, I need my main course, like, now.
Yeah.
And then like, maybe dessert and, like, the little mint later in life, like much later in life. No, but what I meant by that was he was like, "Oh, let's get some appetizers to share." Like,
yeah.
Like that type. He's like, "Do you want drinks, appetizers?" And I'm like, "That's like, I never do that unless I'm with like a bunch of friends." I'm like, "Okay." So then we would like. Our eyes were always bigger than our stomachs because we would get appetizers and then like by the time
a sign of like true affection where it's just like, let's just get one of everything on the menu.
Yeah. I mean, delightful. I was like, I can't eat that much. Yeah. And I told him that. I'm like, let's get one appetizer to share, and then we'll, like, see how it goes. Yeah. But, like, I don't know. He liked sharing stuff, which actually wasn't so bad because, like, then you get to try everything.
No, it is. That is really good. Yeah, my current boyfriend is lactose intolerant, which...
Oh, my ex is lactose intolerant as well.
Difficult, but very good for... kosher meat restaurants because there's no dairy.
Yes.
And I can eat all the meat and it's delightful. So, yeah. Fun fact. It's not a lost cause if your boyfriend is lactose intolerant. Not that anyone's going to dump anyone because they're lactose intolerant. Hope no one thinks that that's going to happen.
Yeah. No. My ex and I did not break up over his lactose intolerance. It was fine.
It was his other intolerance that they
I think his intolerance towards religion, like, and anything that had to do with our culture and Judaism, even though he is Jewish. Yeah. But whatever, that's like getting into deep stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like this would be a good time to take a break and hear a word from our sponsor.
That sounds delightful.
Okay, everybody, we'll be right back. Here on Sticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri-state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in-store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929-376-9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. Okay, now that we've heard from our sponsor, Reina and I were talking offline a little bit, and Reina, can you tell my listeners, I hear you have some great stories about some unique dates.
Yeah.
So let's hear them.
So and this is another story of when I first moved to New York and was just starting dating and like thought being creative and a little quirky was cool. And I also happened to be obsessed with 7-Eleven Free Slurpee Day. So this actually I don't think was 7-Eleven Free Slurpee Day, which if you're unfamiliar, not sponsored, it's on July 11th on 7-Eleven. It's gotten a little more odd.
They ran out this year.
Yeah, they also make you do a whole app thing. Anyway, so
yeah.
So this was not 7-Eleven. It was Bring Your Own Cup Day. And you could bring anything as a cup. And
I remember this from when I was in college.
You could fill up an entire thing of Slurpee. And I was like, what a great first date idea. So this is for all those thrifty gals or guys out there. Do
they still even do this?
I don't think they do, but you can just go and see if they let you do it. We went to
Or just go for Slurpees.
Just go for Slurpees. Honestly, I don't know what it is about Slurpees. They're just so different. They both never hit and hit at the same time. Anyway,
agreed.
So we went to a dollar store and we got one of those Sandcastle shapers. It was probably like a gallon size. And we just filled it up with 2 straws. Again, this was pre-COVID. And just found a random place to sit and just Slurpee it away. And it was... I mean, we didn't see each other again. He was cute, but it was a very memorable... I think I was that weirdo who was like, let's get a picture. And my phone, I think, broke shortly after, and I actually lost the photo. I could not... But I have this image of me and this rando, like, holding this sand bucket filled with, like, red...
This was a first date?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a second date? Did you finish the Slurpee?
No. There was so much Slurpee. It was... Yeah.
And you didn't go on a second date with him?
We didn't, no. It was one of those, like, one and done situations. So, yeah.
Who kept the castle?
I want to say I did, and then... No, I had to have thrown it out. I think it was just so sticky. Sticky. Very sticky, and yeah, I think it was, thank you for the memories. I'm going to throw you out now. But yeah, so that was definitely a unique date.
We love a creative date.
Yeah, it was. I think I paid. Actually, the next story, I paid as well, too.
Wait, did you plan it, too?
I think it was one of these things where, like, I was on the app that day scouting out who's going to go to fill your cup day, or bring your own cup day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not my proudest moment, but...
That's okay.
But another funny date, and this next one's someone who we still follow each other on Instagram. We only went on one date. Really, really great guy. Just, you kind of immediately both we got very platonic vibes. So listen to the story with like that in mind. We decided to go get some hard seltzers and then head into Central Park, which is actually something we didn't do because that is not legal. So you did not hear that on this podcast. But we didn't do that, and then...
We just got regular seltzer.
Yeah, just regular seltzers, and hung out, like, found a place to just sit, and it started raining. We were like, shoot. So we, like, ran to this gazebo, which I know sounds so romantic, but even the gazebos in Central Park, even though they're technically covered, like, rain still gets through, kind of, so it was, like, sitting...
Where are there gazebos in Central Park?
There's one, it's near, like, Central Park South.
Okay.
You enter through, like, the Columbus Circle, I want to say, area.
Okay. I feel like I've never seen this gazebo.
Yeah, so we were in this gazebo. Some other rando was also in the gazebo, and it was, like, raining less than right outside, but it was, like, pouring rain. And we just sat there having, like, I mean, everything came out in this conversation. It had, like, airplane, like, when you sit next to a stranger on an airplane and tell them your life story and vice versa. It had that energy where, like, we dug into, like, childhood trauma. He was Jewish. We talked about Judaism. We talked about, like, work. We talked about aspiration. And it was so platonic. And meanwhile, we are soaking wet, like, literally drenched. And it was over the summer, but it was still starting to get really cold. Also, guys, you're very lucky. He went into the bushes and peed 3 times. I am sitting there, wet on the inside, wet on the outside. No one ever says that. I just had to pee really badly. That's what I meant. I had to pee really badly. This is a clean podcast. Clean really badly. Pee really badly. Anyway. So yeah, so that was, I mean, I took a selfie afterwards just by myself. I was soaking wet. And I feel like it was very memorable and fun because neither of us cared that much. So it was a good time. And
why didn't you find somewhere to go inside?
Well,
and like
we were in the park. And I think, quite honestly, he had come from... I lived on the Upper East Side at the time, and he had come from Astoria, and so we wanted to meet in the specific intersection area. And so by going too far in one direction versus another, you know what, there really wasn't a reason. I think neither of us were just looking to impress each other, and we were totally fine getting completely soaking wet. And it was a good memorable date story, so...
I don't know. I had a guy walk me home in the rain. It was actually kind of cute.
That was cute.
He, he came to my neighborhood. He took me to a bar that was probably maybe like 10 blocks from my apartment, probably a little less than that. And it was, we leave the bar and it was pouring. I wore a raincoat, but I didn't bring an umbrella. Obviously, I was trying to wear cute shoes instead of rain booties. Should have worn the rain booties. And it was pouring rain when we left, and like he still walked me to my apartment. I felt bad. Like I had a hood on my coat. He didn't have a hood. And he had this teeny little umbrella and he kept holding it over me. He's a good guy. Gingy, you're a great guy. Just not for me. I went on 2 dates with him, but this was our first date. And then he had to make it back. He lived like more downtown from where I live, and he had to go to the subway and it was still pouring. And it took my shoes like 3 days to dry.
Woof.
And I felt bad. And it was cold outside. This was like March, I think.
Ooh,
so it was still
March
cold
is
out.
So cold.
It was cold out. It wasn't like crazy cold out. It was just like, but it was still cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of my rainy, I try not to be outside.
Yeah.
I got caught in the rain today. It was miserable.
Yeah, I heard. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I think actually I don't know if you took a shower or if that was just from the rain.
Oh no! Then I came and showered.
She took a shower.
Yeah, my hair is
gentlemen.
very wet.
She took a shower.
I was coming back from the gym, so
I was not sure, so I've been sitting very far away. But
no. So I came back. I was coming back from the gym, got caught in the rain, so I had shower number 1, and then I came home and actually took a shower. So shower number 2. So
yeah, that's like second dinner, second shower. That's so funny. Yeah, no, I feel like unique dates where it ends, you like both are not going forward platonically is like probably the best. I think I went through one of those actually recently before I got together with my current boyfriend, but this one actually before we met and kind of mutually I think just did not pursue each other. The story actually starts 6 years earlier. So
wow.
I was living with a girl at the time when I first moved to the city, and I was single, and she was like, oh, I know this guy that I like maybe went to high school with. He's funny, he's Jewish, you should like reach out to him. And actually I was a big slider into the DMs at the time. I was known for sliding into the DMs of strangers.
Semi-famous comedians.
Very famous artists with the name Lil Dicky. He did not respond. He had 2 million followers at the time. Obviously, he didn't respond. Lil Dicky, if you're out there,
listening to the Sticky Situations pod,
just kidding.
Hit Reina up, but she's in a relationship.
Yeah,
but it'd still be cool if you answer her DM.
Yeah, it would just be kind of nice if you answered.
Yeah, just we'll put it on the TikTok if you do. You'll be TikTok famous on the.
Or
Sticky
we can just keep it between
TikTok.
us. No one has to know. But yeah, so I actually followed him on Facebook or friended him on Facebook. We followed each other on Instagram, and like 6 years passed, and I think I never reached out, and he never reached out. He had no clue who I was. I never introduced myself. I was just some rando who friended him and whatever. And like 6 years passed, and then recently he has like a somewhat unique-ish name, and recently before I was dating current boy, I was on Hinge and I saw like blank liked you or whatever it was, blank commented on your photo, and I'm like, that's a kind of unique name. What are the odds? And so it was the guy, and he had no clue who I was, even though I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm not even joking. My first message to him was like a 2-minute long voice note being like, oh my gosh, blank, we're finally meeting. You're not going to believe this. I can't believe it's been 6 years. It's like, I'm like, we're old friends at this point. It's so great to finally meet you. And we got coffee, and I mean, he pretty much was like, oh, wow, small world. You know so-and-so? And I'm like, blank, I've been waiting 6 years for this meetup, and that's the response you give me? So anyway.
Did it go past a first date?
It did not. Both because I think, like, we would be very good friends, and also my eye was elsewhere. So, yeah, but honestly, it was very delightful closing that chapter that he never knew existed.
I feel like I feel like for me it's more like these guys on apps Like, you know, you see the same guys on apps and, like, you match with them a million times and then, like, finally you meet up and you're like, wow, this is what I was waiting for. What a letdown. Like, after so many times of matching and, like, this is what happens and you talk. Or, like, I've had guys, like, I had them give me their number. Like, they asked for my number multiple times. I'm like, oh, we've talked before.
Ooh. Yeah,
and,
that's
like,
rough.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always in it for, like, the curiosity factor. It's like, oh, we've been talking. And, like, I've matched with you so many times. Like, I just want to see what this is like. And it never ceases to disappoint.
Yeah.
I told you guys about the boy who lived in my phone. Like, we went on one date. Like, he like reached back out after a year. Like, we talked last year. Then I became exclusive with my ex. So I, like, sent him a message being like, hey, I started seeing someone. And then, like, a year later, he reached out. He finally asked me on a date, which I kind of had to prompt him by telling him that he's just the boy who lives in my phone.
Boy who lives...
Yeah, and then then he, like, kept texting me how great I am and all this. And I'm like, okay, so why aren't you asking me out for a second date? And he's like, okay, let's do it. I'm like, that's not me asking you out. That's, like, you have to ask me out. And then I haven't heard from him, and, like, was it worth it? Not really. Like, I don't think it added much to my life. Like, the curiosity factor.
Yeah, at least you don't have the what ifs. Also, was his
true.
name Harry Potter because he was the boy who lived in the cellular? Cellular.
I get where you're going.
Didn't
with
he
the
live
joke.
in, like, the bottom attic? Isn't that a cellar? He lived under the stairs.
Yeah.
And he lived in your phone.
Yeah.
So it's a cell, like a cell phone.
I wouldn't give him the credit of being like Harry Potter.
I mean, Harry Potter did not have a great life. I don't think anyone.
No, I
like
feel
Harry
like this
Potter.
boy grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. So.
Oh yeah, that's
But
different.
yeah, but he's irrelevant. He still lives in my phone. He still follows me on Instagram. I think I unfollowed him. But yeah. But, like, yeah, so the boys who you just, like, always match with on dating apps and, like, sometimes you finally meet, sometimes you never meet.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, Reina, what's your dating app experience been like?
Yeah, dating apps. So I have been on and off for like 6 years, and not even on and off because of relationships. I just truly go through phases where I am not motivated to date. I, for a long, long time, had many, many, many friends in the city. A lot have moved. A lot have just, we've all kind of simmered down socially a little bit. And I did go through a phase a little bit earlier this year where I was really enjoying just going on dates, even if there wasn't any super big connection. I just thought it was like a really good addition to my social life. I found that like balance that people talk about, rumors of. And so I feel like I have always been bad at dating apps. I either just say no to everyone, or I don't message back, just was never a priority. But there was this phase a couple years ago where I went out with, I want to say 2 or 3 people, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's more than 0, where we technically either matched on an app and never spoke, or I saw them and was like, nah, but then we met in real life, and then we went out. And like, one time I remember like messaging the guy being like, oh my gosh, I thought I recognized you. And one of them I remember explicitly like not matching with, but then seeing him at a party, and I was like, he's cute. And then he did ask me out. So I feel like the fact that there were 2 people that I was interested in after meeting in real life and technically had seen on the apps, it means that like they're not wrong, right? Like there's potential there. But I felt silly being like, yeah, I've been meeting boys in the wild, when I'm like, no, I also have their profile at my fingertips. So I feel like that was a weird coincidence. But I think apps are a game. You just got to have the consistency, and you can't let too much time go after you start talking in order to actually go out. But I am very cognizant of being catfished, and I personally am worried, actually not even being catfished, but I'm worried about catfishing people. For people who don't know who I am, just imagine like Gal Gadot model in photos, and then sort of like a thumb in real life. Like, I take a really good photo, and I'm not ashamed to say that. My face is symmetrical. That's the number one thing in psychology about why people are attracted to faces. So I have a great face. But at the same time, I also have really pretty friends. So I want to be cognizant that people don't think I'm the other brunette in the photo. So I have a foolproof way of making sure people don't think I'm like the other pretty person who's like a little bit prettier. So I always have a solo photo. Take notes, ladies and gentlemen. Solo photo. Usually you got to go knee up, full body if possible. Solo photo. Then, and this works for brunettes, and if you're any other color hair, just reverse it. Always have a photo with a redhead. That way it's very clear which one I am. So now they have 2 photos worth of data. To then, when the third photo is a group shot, it's very clear which one I am because they've now seen me twice.
Yeah.
And then I do 2 personality pics, and that pretty much is the 5.
Oh, okay. So I have 1 personality pic at the end, and it's me in a hot dog costume at my friend's wedding.
I love that.
And it's hilarious. But I think my other ones, I mostly just have... So I stopped putting pictures with my single friends in because I'm like, I don't want these guys to like swipe and like want to date my friend.
Yep, so, that's why you got it.
So I have my friend photos. They're clearly married. I mean, listen, most
you're just like in in their like wedding, and you're just like
selfieing
it's like
in a
married.
wedding dress. Like I think one of the pictures that I have with friends right now is like my 2 best friends from home. Or 2 of my closest friends from home. One of them is in a wedding dress because it was at her wedding, and me and the other one were bridesmaids. And like maybe non-religious guys couldn't tell, but the other one who is not wearing the wedding dress is clearly wearing a sheitel. I mean, it's a very pretty sheitel.
Yeah.
But like you look at it and you're like, okay, that's a sheitel. And like those of you who don't know what a sheitel is, when Orthodox women get married, a lot of them cover their hair. And a sheitel is just a very fancy wig that doesn't look like a wig.
Oh, thank you for the definition. I actually did not know. I assumed it was like a head covering of some
sort.
So
she's wearing a wig. And, like, I can tell it's a wig. I'm hoping everyone else can tell. But, like, if they wanted to date her anyways, she's taken. She has a husband. And I can't remember what other... I don't think I have other... I think the rest of mine are solo. Because I like to have... But I'm like you. I photograph very well. And... I feel like people might not look exactly how I photograph, even though I've been told by multiple guys that my pictures don't do me justice. But I've also been told that I'm very photogenic. Either way, they all just want to get in my pants. So, like...
Okay, what I will say is, I know I just called myself, like, Gal Gadot of Hinge, but I also make sure that all of my photos, they have to be taken from the last year. Because I refuse to, again, look like I did when I was very athletic or training for a half marathon or, like, God forbid, like in college or something like that. Like, there has to be one where my arms are out, and there has to be one where, like, I look somewhat disheveled. So, like, right now my disheveled one is, like, me on the couch, like, thumbing with, like, my dog being like, rerun this couch. And then I have some other ones, but...
No, the within 1 year is a good...
It's a good rule.
Yeah, it's a good rule. I mean, I have
They're gonna find out what you look like anyway.
Yeah.
Be confident. You're
it's
beautiful.
better that you want them to like you for how you actually look.
Than be surprised, like, spend time on the first date being surprised that you look different.
Yeah, like...
And I know people have different beauty standards, but, like...
No, but you just want them to know what they're getting, because, like, if they want you, they want you. And, like, you catfishing them is... I don't know, like, for me... Over COVID, I lost a lot of weight, and then subsequently gained it back because it was just an unhealthy way of doing things. And life, I went back into normal life, and normal people eat normally and exercise normally, and not like a crazy person like I was doing. So, like, I have all those gorgeous pictures from, like, when I was at my skinniest, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's catfishing. If I post that, yeah, they're good pictures. My face still looks the same, but, like, I don't look the same. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I actually look like me.
Also,
because
you feel more comfortable going into the first date if you, like, aren't feeling like, oh, shoot, comparing yourself to yourself, like, 3 years ago in a photo.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
I agree.
I could look hotter on my apps that I don't have anymore. If I wanted to, I could look super hot, but...
I think the personality pick is also key from what
Yeah.
you're saying. Like, it's a conversation piece. I've gotten more comments on my hot dog picture, like, dressed as a hot dog, than, like, any of my other pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah, personality pick.
and the prompts, personality prompts.
Yeah. And just keep it clean. Keep it clean. Don't
keep
be
it clean.
weird. Don't be weird.
I agree.
But yeah, so, but speaking of COVID, okay, I did not really date during COVID. So, there was a period of time where you're just like kind of like missing attention and it's not even that I needed to date for attention. As I said, I really didn't date that much before, but I don't know, I'm not going out with friends as much. I'm not being social. So you're just kind of missing like meeting new people. And I was living in California at the time, and I got a text from a random number being like, "Hi, Reina?" ? And I was like, "Hello?" And they're like, "I think we met at like an event." And I'm like, "I have no clue who you are. I don't think we did." And I'm like, "Oh, this is a little weird. Maybe it's like someone who I did meet," but like, no. I actually like looked at my contacts, did not see anything. And then they like, called me, and I was like, honestly, be nice to talk to a stranger right now. I haven't done that in a while. So I picked up the phone, and I'm like, "Hello?" I'm literally talking to what probably was a spam caller trying to like steal all my information.
Was this like I don't know, I got text like this also, and if you guys can refer to my episode with Longinus part 2 where I tell the story about the guy who sent me inappropriate pictures and who was like cyber stalking me.
Yeah, I don't even think me and this
He
guy
was like a catfish.
met on an app. I think he was, because he was like asking questions. He was like,
No, I didn't meet him on an
"Oh."
app. He just randomly texted me. He's like, "Hey,
Oh, sorry, event. Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, I have you saved in my phone as like Rachel J Swipe." Like,
so funny.
and I'm like, okay, like I could have given you my number.
Yeah, I got the PG version of this. We just had a delightful phone call, but he kept asking me a lot of questions, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to ask you some questions."
Did he answer them?
Not really.
Did he sound like he was American?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no. He was very normal sounding. He just sounded a little confused and was asking questions like where I grew up and my age, and I'm like, "I'm just here for a nice conversation. It's nighttime. I'm tired."
Have you made sure that he didn't steal your identity?
Well, yes, he did not. Identity theft for another day, but
gosh.
Weirdly have had 2 incidents. One of them much more traumatic than the other. Much more traumatic. 2 times I got dumped, very serious relationships, and 4 to 6 weeks later, I had identity theft. Not from those boys at all, but it was just a really bad series of events that happened twice where it's like, she's feeling down, let's steal all her money. So
That's crazy.
keep your eye out, ladies and gentlemen. When it rains, it pours.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Reina,
Yes.
do you have any more stories that you would like to share?
No, I don't think so. I think, shockingly, I will never have anything to talk about ever again.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
All right, okay. Studio audience is nodding in agreement. Fingers crossed. She'll never come back.
And Reina told at the beginning the story of how she met her current boyfriend.
Somewhat, yeah. I shared that we met in the wild. Okay, well, here's the thing. I saw a TikTok recently, and it was like, all the single people out there, like, stop listening to your friends telling you to go out, like, listen to your married and coupled friends telling you to go out there and date. You don't need to date to meet someone. Most people actually don't. They meet at a party, they meet at school, they meet in grad school, they meet in a bar, and, like, yes, you need to get to know them over some sort of series of time, but you can just meet out in the wild. And I was like, well, that sounds nice. And it's really
I never
true.
meet anyone in the wild.
Sometimes, so in this case, it was true. I was just wandering around going, any nice Jewish boys who are single and from New York? And I think he wandered over at that perfect time. And as I said, we really didn't
did you
talk
actually
much.
say that?
So I was going around yelling that.
Because, like, I can see you doing
Yeah,
that.
I was, but I actually don't think at the moment I saw him, I was saying it, but I don't think he heard me. I just sort of saw him, and I was like, that's a Jew. He claims he sort of like floated over. Honestly, memories are hazy, but yeah, I barely talked to him. And then, honestly, turns out we had a lot in, like, we knew a lot of people in common, both like margaritas, and that's pretty much all you need for a solid foundation in a relationship. So
yeah, margaritas. That's, you know, you're the second person recently that I've heard who met their significant other while they were away on a bachelorette weekend.
Really?
My coworker, I mean, they met years ago, but my coworker was telling me this week that she met her fiance. She was on a bachelorette weekend out of state, and she meets this guy, and like now they're engaged.
Okay, what's crazy about bachelorette
Maybe
parties,
I gotta go on a bachelorette weekend.
You do, but here's the thing that's really frustrating is everyone should treat a bachelorette party, if you're going to be going out and meeting people and at the bars, you need to treat it like a stoplight party, because especially in like a, you know, heterosexual sort of environment, if you're on a very traditional bachelorette or a very traditional bachelor party where there's just men or just women and they're both interested in the other sex, quite literally no one is with their partner. The bride is not with her groom. Anyone on the bachelor party is not with their girlfriend if they have one. So it's very difficult to not only tell who's about to get married, but also know who's single. And so I feel like it's hard.
I feel like brides
brides have the engagement.
They have the engagement ring, but they also have like, they're all dressed up. They're usually like, they have like a sash or something.
And the grooms are just blackout.
Yeah. I don't know. I see a lot of TikToks like, oh, if your groom's on a bachelor party this weekend, like he's like talking to these girls, doing inappropriate stuff.
Your name's Brian and you're in New Orleans. You might want to look out.
You might want to cancel the wedding.
Like,
yeah,
I've seen that, unfortunately.
I feel like meeting in the wild is so like,
it's so difficult.
It's so difficult,
but shockingly, it's possible. What I will say is he didn't text me for like a month. So I was like, oh, this is lit. Like it was both improbable that we met and also crazy that like we actually ended up going out. He somewhat lied on his verbal resume. He did not currently live in New York. He lives in Puerto Rico. So that was why he disappeared for a month.
Wow.
But yeah.
Well, listen, I guess there's worse things than reappearing after a month. So guys, if there's anyone out there who has my phone number, who I've met recently, whether in the wild or through any means that is unconventionally, like not dating apps, not setups, who I've met unconventionally, who's interested, you can still text me after a month. I might still go out with you.
Yeah. And he doesn't know this. I don't know if he'll listen this far in, but he doesn't know this. But what's crazy, this is the wildest thing, is that the day he ended up texting, which was like, I'm not even joking, a month after we met, and I was like fully like, oh, this is weird. He said he wanted to grab a drink in New York, and now he's gone MIA. Thank God I, just had him in his phone. My phone is like Dan Austin Barr. I realized I like beeped his name out earlier, but I had also said it even earlier, and there's a lot of Dans out there, so you don't know.
If his name is Austin Barr,
yeah.
Then.
Well, people were starting to think his name was Austin, and I was like, people are like, oh, how's Austin? And I'm like, I don't know who that is, but do you want to introduce us? He sounds great, and clearly he's interested. So, no, but I actually, the day he texted me, I was looking through my phone, and I was thinking, yeah, like, I had a friend who kept saying, like, just text him. I'm like, no, he has my number. He knows where I live in, like, a non-creepy stalker way. If he's interested, he'll text me. And I was actually
if he wants to, he will.
If he wants to, he would. I firmly believe that. I know people always make excuses like,
no,
well, maybe he doesn't know how to express himself. Like, okay,
no,
well, then you need
if
to
you
wait
have
3
to
years until he matures and is not a fresh
If you have
piece of
to
fruit.
validate it, then it's not it.
Yeah. Oh, also, other tip, if you have to, sometimes you need to collect your thoughts. I totally get that. And sometimes you want to save thoughts to express when you are less upset or frustrated. But if you are constantly drafting things in your notes, it's not your person.
Yeah.
If your notes are open and you have most texts in there, he's not your person. She's not your person.
I don't think I ever drafted a text to my ex in my notes.
All right, well, she's still single if you are. As in, like, could be your person.
Yeah, I mean, I am a notes person, but it's only, like, serious business. Like, if I want to tell someone off, like, that's when I go to my notes. But, like, when I tell them off, I'm like, okay, it's not if the group chat has to help me, like, draft the text, then, like, he's not it.
Oh, that's something I can offer. I love drafting text because I think many people, myself included back in the day, many people think they are being so forward when they are really not. So, one, you think you're putting yourself out there, you're probably doing it in a way that is self-preservation, and you can be more forward. But yeah, so I was going to text him saying, hey, like, even though I really had already saved his number with the Dan Austin bar thing, dab, I was going to text him saying, like, hey, like, should I save your number in my phone or should I delete it? And then I didn't send it. And then I got a text later that day and I was like, oh my God, did I accidentally send it? Like, what? So yeah. If you're listening, that never happened.
It's meant to be. Yeah. Okay, so Reina.
Yes.
I probably already asked you this, but then we kept talking. Do you have any more stories that you would like to share?
Oh, not to harp on the current boyfriend, my notes just reminded me this. But during that, he also doesn't know this. During that month, maybe you can edit this back to where the story was, but during the month that we didn't speak because he was MIA, boys, if you're watching her story, she sees that.
Oh my God.
So
I hate that. I hate it.
He was watching my story.
So I get it that it's so easy to just scroll on Instagram and watch people's stories, but I hate it.
He wasn't following me. We hadn't spoken yet.
Wait, he wasn't following you?
During the month.
He was watching your stories.
It was during the
but
month.
Not texting you. Wait, so he was actively going to your Instagram in his search because he doesn't follow you.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Isn't that wild? And
that's wild.
In hindsight, it kind of makes sense because, like, he was like, oh, like, what we're going to do, just, like, I mean, he didn't say this, but this is how I'm justifying it. Like, you're like, oh, what we're going to do, like, talk for a month? I'm literally in Puerto Rico. So, like, I texted you when I'm in New York. He was like, yeah, I said we'd grab a drink when we were in New York.
Guys. We've talked about this before on the podcast. Just communicate. If you're into a girl and something like this comes up, just tell her, like, oh, by the way, I actually live in Puerto Rico. I'll be back in New York in a month. Can I take you out then? We can talk during, or, like, I could just hit you up when I get, like, if you didn't want to talk during, he'd be like, can we be in touch when I come back to New York?
I mean, what I will say is he did claim to live in New York, but he also says that he did tell me the Puerto Rico thing, and I just don't remember. I don't think that's true. I think he's trying to save himself. But, anywho, if you're watching her story and she's not an influencer with 10,000 or more followers,
she knows.
She will see it. And then she will play it off cool. When you actually text her.
I called a boy out on it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was like...
This is how I'm calling him out.
I was like, I see you watching my... This was a draft text, so you know he's not the one.
Yeah. In the notes.
I was like, I see that you're watching my Instagram stories, but I haven't heard from you. Like, but you're not responding to my text, but I can see that you're watching my stories. Like, guys, if you're actively ignoring a girl, don't watch her Instagram stories.
And I think it is, like, normal. Normally, I will say, don't overthink the story thing. Don't read into it. I one time accidentally watched everyone's story because I opened it and then walked away, and it was just flipping.
Yeah.
But if they don't follow you...
No, if they don't follow you... I had a guy who didn't follow me. He was watching my stories, and I accidentally not accidentally. I talked about this on a prior episode where I kind of posted a semi-thirst trap on my story, and then this guy who I was talking to from an app who was not following me was watching my stories, but then he followed me and he responded to that story. It was just a whole mess. But yeah, whatever. I already told the story on a different episode, so go back and listen to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, wait. So Reina, we're already giving advice. Yeah. Let's do this in a more formal fashion. Yeah. Unless you have another like story you want to share. What dating advice can you give to me and my listeners? We could all use some advice aside from what we've already said.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a couple things. One, just to reiterate, if you're in your notes ferociously drafting a response, it's not your person. Just relax. If you need to work that hard to communicate, so you can talk to them about communicating, but you cannot change how you communicate in a vacuum to communicate. And also, if the point of having someone is to de-stress and add joy to your life, not to be constantly more stressed and validating yourself and justifying yourself. My second piece of advice, and this is something that, while I thought I was a very self-aware person earlier in my life, thanks to therapy, has taught me that, and it sounds so cliche, but like, you are not your feelings, which sounds really dumb, but like, I used to think like, oh, I'm really upset about this, or I'm really passionate about this, I must really feel this way. And a lot of times, a good night's sleep, you wake up and you're like, I was just kind of tired, or I'm still upset about this, but I'm thinking about it more clearly. So if you're really upset about something, or generally you think that you get upset or overworked about stuff or overwhelmed, I have something, and I actually do this with my boyfriend. We have the 10 p.m. rule. You don't talk about anything really serious or emotional or deep after 10 p.m. because the more you're tired, the more it's like responding to something when you're drunk and you're not thinking clearly and you're being reactive and you're being mopey or whiny or upset or whatever. So the 10 p.m. rule is probably, you could just really just start the advice piece there. 10 p.m. rule is probably my biggest
10
piece of
rule.
advice.
I like that one.
Because it's sort of like how like nothing good happens out after 2 a.m., which honestly I beg to differ, but nothing good happens in relationship conflict after 10 p.m. You just can't have a productive argument, and it's just, you don't want to go to bed angry, but you also don't want to go to bed angrier. So that's my piece of advice.
It's good advice.
Thank you.
And then, Reina, we'll end this with how I always like to end my episodes.
Yes.
Asking my guests, what is your Real Housewife tagline?
All right. I knew this was coming, and I took the day off to think about it. Totally kidding. I only skipped a couple meetings. Also kidding. I thought about this at the dog park. So two things come to mind. One, something that was actually like my Instagram like bio for the longest time. If you think I'm odd, it's because most of the time I literally can't even. That's a little punny. It's a good one. And then actually I think my life motto, which is a newer thing as of a couple years ago, which is life is fake, do what you want, and then there's like a nice fat asterisk after the do what you want, and it says, you go down to the small asterisk at the bottom of the page, and it says, I don't know if taglines can have like multiple pages, but anyway, as long as you don't harm yourself or other people, because life is fake, do what you want, as long as you don't harm yourself or other people. Since taking that advice, I have started a small business, I have a dog, I now have a boyfriend, I'm thriving at my job, because if you channel the energy of a mediocre white man and do whatever you want, possibilities are endless.
I like that. I like it.
Thank you.
Everyone, just channel the energy of a mediocre white
The
man.
confidence they have, the audacity to have that unjustified confidence. You got it. Life is fake. Just channel it. Just pretend that's you. That's all. That's all you need to do.
I like it.
Yeah. Take what you deserve, ladies.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Reina, so much. This has been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you for
hearing all
having
your
me.
Stories.
Thank you for making this drink.
Yeah, I've been mixing drinks when I have guests to record, and even my remote guests, I tell them that I'm going to drink and to join me for a drink.
Yeah.
I haven't been turned down yet.
That is, I didn't know you did this remotely. That's so nice.
I mean, I've only had a few remote guests so far. The remote ones are in the works. It's obviously more fun to record in person.
What, you don't like technical glitches?
Yeah, like we can sit on the couch or sometimes in my studio, which is my bedroom. And
I cut out like
we have
my
drinks.
studio, my entire apartment without walls.
Well, I don't live in a studio apartment. People were saying like, oh, it'd be funny if you like live in a studio and that's your like quote unquote studio to record in.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, but we'll see. Right now my studio is my bedroom and my guests get to sit at my desk, which is just got an upgrade. I just got a standing desk thing.
Ooh.
Courtesy of our neighbors moving out, giving it away for free. And my roommate who saw them giving it away for free and grabbed it for me.
Shout out to that roommate. Shout out to standing desks. I actually also shout out to that roommate. I don't think we use names here. So when they moved, they said, we have some wine glasses, and I was like, you know what? That's the one thing I really haven't gotten as an adult is wine glasses. I have like party cups. I have a few like odds and ends wine glasses, but no like 4 wine glasses with stems that are pretty. So I picked them up, was delightful, was so excited. And then they were giving away some other stuff before they moved, and they gave away, I guess, it was like the vegan dumplings. And so our neighbor, your roommate, went down and picked them up for me because I was out and, wanted to make sure they got into she had my key and wanted to make sure they got into my freezer. And she texted me and said, hey, I got the dumplings. They're in your freezer. Also, I don't know if you wanted these, but I picked up, they had some pesto and a bottle of wine. I'm not even joking. We had a meal, my boyfriend was visiting. We had a meal the next day that was sponsored by that couple. We had the wine in their wine glasses. He's lactose intolerant. The pesto was vegan. So we made pesto pasta. I was like, I think we are just literally mooching off of these people.
No, I feel like everyone's benefited. So many neighbors I know have gotten furniture and things from that one little apartment, little 1-bedroom apartment. Gave out so much good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have my standing desk now, so
yeah,
it's great.
And if you need a really, really quick and easy date staying in food idea, I don't know where this pesto came from, but it was vegan. You literally just made pasta, mixed the pesto in. I sauteed some veggies, then steal your neighbor's wine glasses and wine, and you're pretty much set. It's fairly inexpensive.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Thank you.
But yeah. Well, everybody, Reina and I could go on forever about our neighbors and all the good stuff that they give away. But I think we should end this here. So everyone, remember, again, quick reminder to like Sticky Situations page on Facebook. Follow Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram. Follow Sticky Situations Pod on TikTok. And if you would like to be a guest or date me or any of my guests, please send me a DM on Instagram or an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. And thanks again for such a great episode, Reina.
Oh, thank you.
And Sticky Situation Nation, I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye. I got some one-liner jokes that I'll tell while we're here. This is from I dug deep in the stand-up notes. Everyone should date a doctor. They've literally taken an oath that they won't do anything unethical. Ahahaha. Okay, and then the next one is, I realized in my mid-20s it was easier to see apartments in New York City just by going out and hanging out with guys, going home with them, than setting up an appointment with a broker.
Honestly, true.
I toured a lot of apartments in my day.